Our Parshat Devarim opens with what's called a veiled rebuke, meaning Moshe's trying to hint to Am Yisrael where they went wrong, so they can fix their ways and not repeat that going forward. It's his final speech to Am Yisrael. So when he's saying it, he does it in a very gentle way. He hints to them based on the locations or based on the context, and through that they would think about what they did wrong. So, like for instance, Chatzerot, he mentions a location. That's a location where the rebellion of Korach took place. He didn't say you sinned with Korach, but in the case of Korach, but you were in that place, and they would know from there. Another time he hinted to them was when he says V'di Zahav. This is the first verse of our parsha, and V'di Zahav means gold. So he's hinting them it's a location, but it's also the sin that they did with gold, which was golden calf. So they have to remember what they did wrong so that they won't repeat it. So that's one way to understand. This is kind of like a critique of Am Yisrael, like a warning. The Midrash in Tractate Brachot, it brings an opposite way of understanding this. Moshe was not just rebuking Am Yisrael, he was kind of hinting to Hashem to be easy on Am Yisrael. And he says, the language is V'di Zahav. It could be also understood as Dai Zahav, like a lot of Zahav. A lot. Dai is like until they had to say, it's enough, die. And so Moshe says, Hashem, what do you want? You gave them all these riches. They had so much wealth, so much gold, that you, in a way, gave them so much that it caused them to sin in the golden calf. If they didn't have all that gold, they wouldn't have sinned. What could they have done? So that's a different way to understand it. Now, Rav Kook, so that's basically like they got spoiled. And so the lesson from that would be like, to not spoil those around us with too much because it could lead them to go off the right path. But Rav Kook offers a nice interpretation based on the Gemara's understanding, which could be a relevant message for us today. He says, you also saying to Hashem, you have to forgive Am Yisrael because you gave them so much that they kept having to say, enough riches, enough gold, enough. And at a certain point, they just started to say enough all the time. And they said enough, not just in terms of material wealth, but in terms of spirituality too. And they said, enough, it's enough for me. And at a certain point, they kept saying enough that they settled for a low level of spirituality, which was the golden calf. I mean, you kept giving them so much that they said enough in terms of materialism, that led them to kind of have that orientation of enough, and that led them to settle for a low level spiritual experience, which is the golden calf. And so Rav Kook says that the message from that is that we should not, in terms of materialism, it's okay to say enough, but in terms of spirituality, you have to keep striving for more and more. And if you get to a point in your own individual life or in those you're giving to, that you cause a situation where it's enough for them, that's not the right path. And I think it's relevant for us in these days. I was giving a shiur today about a class about the temple. The temple's kind of like a little bit of a foreign concept for a lot of us. But during these 9 days, these upcoming days heading to Tisha B'Av, it's worth thinking about the temple, thinking about how where we are isn't enough, and that we should strive for more and try to think about what's wrong without the temple. The more we think about it, the more we'll strive for it, the more we'll desire it, the more it won't be enough. And hopefully through that, Hashem will answer our prayers and build a temple soon.